Let's do a 10-year WWE recap. We're going to compare what superstars looked like 10 years ago compared to what they look like now and talk about how far they've come, if some superstars have evolved or kind of still in the same spot. Isn't time such a unique and crazy thing in life, though? Like, we're heading into the 41st WrestleMania. 10 years ago, we were heading into the 31st WrestleMania. Now we're heading into the 41st WrestleMania. There are about to be 41 official WrestleManias this year. It's crazy to think that 2015 was 10 years ago. Like, man, so much has happened in 10 years and time just continues to go so fast, man. It feels like, everything just goes so fast and moves forward, like, just in your mind, which it really does. Like, that's why they always say life is so short. Don't take it for granted because things go by very quick, man. You already know the deal, though. If you're new to this channel, please make sure to subscribe, like, share, comment below, turn on all notifications to be updated with all pro wrestling content right here on this platform and this channel, and to be updated every single Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time Zone when we go live for the No Name Wrestling Podcast. We do allow the subscribers to come on from time to time to engage with us during the open mic episodes, to debate with us and have friendly conversations. So be on the lookout for that if that's something you want to be a part of. We do engage with the followers. So this is Roman Reigns. We're going to start with him, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Roman Reigns in 2015 compared to Roman Reigns now in 2025. This might not even be a hot take anymore. Somebody's got to say it. I feel like Roman Reigns legitimately has the greatest character evolvement we've ever seen. Like, he's in the conversation. He's up there with, like, somebody who literally had the greatest evolvement of a character that we've seen that have propelled him up to heights that people didn't even know he really could reach. Look at that picture of Roman Reigns in 2015 compared to Roman Reigns now in 2025. Big Dog versus Tribal Chief. The 2015 Roman Reigns doesn't even feel like that's him. I'm looking at this photo, I'm like, bro, that doesn't even feel like that's Roman Reigns. It feels like it's a clone or somebody else that's not recognizable anymore. Roman Reigns has come so far. And credit to him. He's come so far from this to where he's at now. His legacy, his legendary stats have grown so far compared to where he was at in 2015. And WWE always had high hopes for him. This was actually the year they started to push him as a singles guy and wanted him to become as big as he was today. But they were trying to push him as the, next John Cena type babyface. That was never going to work for Roman Reigns, which is why he got booed and rejected for years and failed at times. And the last 2 years of his booking, like 2018, 2019, were so bad for him. Like, he needed that character evolvement in 2020 to turn into the Tribal Chief and then start this bloodline storyline for his legacy to evolve so much further. Like, Roman Reigns literally in the last 5 years of his peak has literally entered in like top 10, top 5, even Mount Rushmore conversations for some people, depending on who you ask. John Cena said he was the GOAT. John Cena called him the greatest of all time, and I know some people said, well, John Cena just being humble and all this yada yada yada. Listen, one of the main reasons John Cena called this man the GOAT, because John Cena is one of the very few people in WWE to know what it's like to be the face of the company. He knows the pressure. He knows what it's like to schedule. He knows what it's like to be at the tippity top. And he's seen Roman, be at the tippity top, but he's seen his involvement of him going from what he once was to what he is now, what he's done for the business. And John Cena knows the stats, the numbers, the merch sales behind the scenes. Like, he knows things that go on behind the scenes that we don't know about and we'll never know about. He knows what it's like to be that guy. So John Cena calling Roman Reigns the GOAT isn't, a crazy thing for John Cena to say because he knows what it's like to be the guy. So some people may not like it, but that's just a fact. I'm not saying Roman Reigns is the GOAT, but if it's coming from John Cena, that just shows you how much, Roman Reigns has evolved just in the last 10 years alone. So it's just crazy to look at. I'm not going to lie to you. A little nitpick here for Seth Rollins. I really felt like he should have kept like the half blonde, half black hairstyle for a while, especially when he was the architect. I really feel like, number one, he could have made a lot of money off that for merchandise and video games and all that stuff, but that could have been something that could have been a part of his legacy long term because it was a cool look for him back then. Like, you definitely know a lot of fans in the crowd would have had that hairstyle back then. I think a lot of people, were rocking with it back then, even though he didn't have it long term on the main roster. It's just a little nitpick, but I really feel like he should have kept that, for a while around that time frame. But you look at Seth Rollins back in 2015 and 2025 now. He's evolved, but he's been very consistent and dependable for WWE, man. Like, you could say the last 10 years, he could be their best bell-to-bell in-ring worker in WWE over the last 10 years. Seth Rollins is checking off a lot of boxes over the last 10 years. He's got the moments, the matches, the stories, the character development, whether it was, the Architect, Monday Night Rollins, the Monday Night Messiah, the Visionary now. Like, Seth Rollins, has been one of the biggest stars in WWE over the last decade, and he's been one of the very few people on the roster. Think about this. He's been one of the very few people on the roster that's been able to survive, whether he was losing a lot or getting pushed as a champion. Like, he could lose a lot of matches and not be world champion, or win a lot of matches and be the world champion, and he'll still have a secure spot on the roster either way. Like, he's been one of the people that survived during the Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar era, which, around that 2018, 2019-ish, that time frame, it got really bad. The product was getting really bad for the WWE on the main roster because they were pushing Brock Lesnar so hard, and he was winning a lot of championships, and he had that part-time schedule that people couldn't stand. And Roman Reigns, of course, was still the big dog around that time frame, and people just couldn't stand him getting pushed, the way he was getting pushed. And a lot of people felt that Seth Rollins should have been that guy, getting the opportunities and being pushed as the number one guy in that particular time frame over Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, because he was that good. A lot of people had felt that he was better than those guys at that particular, time frame in that era of WWE. So, Seth Rollins has been very dependable, and he's been honestly, the Shawn Michaels of this modern era. He's the guy that can put on the best matches with everybody. He can work with everybody. He can win matches. He can lose matches a lot, and he will still have a secure spot on the main roster and still be one of the, most important people on the roster, no matter where he is on the card either. He could be in the tag team division, he could be in the mid-card scene, the main event scene. You could put Seth Rollins anywhere, and he would still be one of the most important people on the roster. Look at Bayley, from the hugger to the role model, man. Bayley has definitely also been very good, the last 10 years, just depending on what WWE has done with her, because her booking hasn't always been great, but we all know as a talent, Bayley is sensational. Bayley is my all-time favorite women's wrestler. I was heavily involved, on the Bayley fan train back in even 2015 when she was the hugger gimmick. Bayley just made me feel when I watched her. When she would lose matches, I would sympathize for her. I felt bad for her. She could make you feel happiness. She could make you feel sadness, too, at the same time. And not every babyface like Bayley was the cheesy white meat babyface that she portrayed. Those gimmicks are very hard to get over in this era of wrestling, just because they're too PG for a lot of people, and she was able to make it work, man. I fully was invested into Bayley's hugger gimmick, was invested into the role model gimmick when she turned heel and everything, and Bayley is sensational. She's one of the greatest of all time, if you ask me, and she's definitely, evolved a lot, since 2015 as well, in a good way. Bro, Liv Morgan has also come a long way. 10 years ago, she was given Staten Island, type vibes, Jersey Shore type vibes, I think she even portrayed a gimmick like that. Or no, that was Carmella. I think Carmella took that gimmick from her, that people had felt Liv Morgan should have been playing, the Staten Island type gimmick and everything, the very Jersey type gimmick, because she is from Jersey, so everybody had felt that should have been her gimmick and everything, but she's grown a lot. She's evolved so much, man. There's a picture I'm going to share with you guys right here. This is crazy. 10 years ago, she was in a match with Eva Marie on NXT, and they didn't even put her name in the description. It just says local competitor. Eva Marie versus local competitor. They were so high up on Eva Marie in 2015 that they had high hopes for her over somebody like Liv Morgan at that particular time frame. They didn't even put her name in the description. It says local competitor. That's crazy. That local competitor has made it pretty far, So Liv Morgan, her best year in WWE by far was 2024. It definitely took her a long time to evolve into a main event player for the women's division, if you ask me, or at least somebody that we look at in that limelight. But you know what? Hard work pays off, and I think Liv Morgan has definitely submitted herself to be one of the most important, superstars in the women's division on the main roster now. So she's definitely come a long way since 2015. You know what, bro? I mentioned earlier that Roman Reigns might have the greatest reinvention we've ever seen from any character. Cody Rhodes in that same ballpark. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. 10 years has been a lot and has meant a lot for Cody Rhodes, bro. He was freaking Stardust 10 years ago. He was a nobody, a jobber. He had zero hope or zero potential ever being a WrestleMania main eventer, the top guy, the face of the company, if he had stayed in WWE and never left and bet on himself and went out to the Indies and did stuff in New Japan and TNA, Ring of Honor, helped create AEW. If he stays in WWE, first off, AEW might not even exist, which honestly would have been bad for business long term, because 2019 was one of the worst years in WWE history. We needed something like AEW to be an alternative for WWE at that time frame. So shout out to Cody Rhodes, the Bucks, and everything. Tony Khan for creating the other promotion that is very good for WWE's, competition, and is very good for the wrestling business as a whole, for superstars and just for fans. But if he never leaves WWE, he would have never made it. There's no way they would have ever positioned him to be where he's at right now if Cody didn't bet on himself. Cody Rhodes is, like the embodiment of betting on yourself. His middle name should be Bet, because this guy is the ultimate, guy who literally believed in himself and pretty much proved everybody wrong when nobody else believed in him. He believed in him, and he proved his worth. He said, you know what? I gotta leave the WWE and I gotta go bet on myself, wrestle in smaller venues, because this is not it for me. I know that I can be bigger than this. I know that I'm better than this. And he has shown that over the last 10 years by far. His character evolvement and development needs to be studied, because Cody Rhodes, literally, bro, you look up the definition of betting on yourself, like in the dictionary or on Google, like Cody Rhodes' name needs to be attached to that, because this guy literally embodies everything about that definition. So I'm not going to talk too much on this, because Randy Orton really hasn't evolved much, because he hasn't had to evolve much. Like 10 years ago, Randy Orton was a already solidified WWE legend, one of the greatest we already seen in WWE history, and he could have retired 10 years ago and been a first ballot WWE Hall of Famer. So there's really not much to touch on besides the looks. Like, he don't got, facial hair anymore. And he did put on, more body mass for, like, muscular wise after he had his back surgery, because 10 years ago, he was like, maybe 220, 230. Now he's like 280, 290. So, Randy Orton said he feels like now he's at his natural weight that, he should have been at years and years ago. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't really evolved much, because he hasn't had to evolve much. Like, he was already, a legend 10 years ago. Sami Zayn definitely looks a lot different 10 years ago compared to now. You can just see it. The hair is longer. The beard is more puffy and grown out. His gear is also changed for the worse. I think his gear was way better 10 years ago compared to what it is now. His gear just feels like it has no effort to it, man. I'm sorry. Like, I don't mean that in a very disrespectful way, but it's like his gear is just very poor, I guess. I don't know. But, he's evolved some too. I mean, he's had some good mid-card title reign, some good matches. He was a part of the Bloodline story, so his character development has definitely grown a lot. Like, he was one of the hottest acts in WWE around 2022 when he was doing the Sami Uso stuff, man. So the only thing Sami Zayn hasn't had yet is that big world championship push on the main roster, which may or may not happen. We just gotta wait and see. Naomi in 2015 is what I want to see her as now in 2025. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like the glow gimmick has just run its course, man. She's definitely changed a lot in the last 10 years, as you can see. And I just feel like, the glow gimmick isn't bad, but I just don't see WWE utilizing that gimmick to make it like a main event level star like she was when she was Trinity in TNA. I just feel like she needs something different to change and evolve if she's going to get to that level. I'm really hoping she's the one that really attacked Jade Cargill and we can get that big heel turn from her, or maybe like some mastermind plan where Naomi and Bianca are both behind the attack of Jade Cargill to kind of get her away from Bianca, so Bianca didn't have to team up with her anymore, because maybe Bianca wanted to team with Naomi or something like that. That's a crazy storyline aspect they could go right there that I don't think many people have thought about. But, I just feel like, for Naomi to really show her true potential in WWE, because she could be a world champion again in WWE. She could be one of their top main event stars in the women's division by far, for sure. She is really that talented and that good. But with the glow gimmick, they haven't really shown me anything, even since her coming back to WWE, that they're going to do anything with it to make it meaningful. Like, I just feel like it's run its course, and she really needs a character evolvement for her to really take that next step, and I feel like a big heel turn would do wonders for her. Braun Strowman, the fumble of this man, I will never understand it, bro. One of the biggest fumbles in WWE history. I just, 10 years ago, he was the black sheep in the Wyatt family, and after, they separated him from the Wyatt family, they literally had in the palm of their hands on a silver platter one of the best big men you could have asked for, that they could have submitted as one of the greatest big men of all time in WWE history by far, and nobody can convince me otherwise. I will die on that freaking hill. I will die on that hill. This guy could cut promos, he was good in the ring for his size, he was super athletic, and more importantly, he was believable. The fans believed in him. When his music would hit that, and he would come out, bro, people would lose their minds like, oh shit, here come Braun Strowman, he about to F somebody up. Like, he gave that type of vibe off. People believed in his gimmick. They believed that he screamed dominance. They believed that he could destroy anybody that he was in the ring with. He had a very good presentation, but every time they put him in the ring with Brock Lesnar, he would lose. It didn't even matter if it was a one-on-one match. It could have been a multi-man match, the Royal Rumble. It didn't matter, bro. This guy lost every time he was in the ring with Brock Lesnar, and we get Brock Lesnar as the beast incarnate, but Brock Lesnar was already, submitted in WWE history. He was already a legend. My gosh, Brock Lesnar putting over Braun Strowman would have did wonders for his career. That would have cemented him as the most dominant guy in WWE, but it just had to be Brock Lesnar for WWE, bro. Like, every time they fed him to Brock, he kept losing, and it got worse and worse for him. And looking at where his career's at now, and knowing that he doesn't give off the same type of energy when his music hits and people don't lose their minds like they used to back in like 2017, 2018 for him, just based off the aura that he had, it just breaks my heart, bro, because Braun Strowman is a huge fumble for WWE, if you ask me. He could have went down as one of the best big men they ever had. Hey, listen, you talk about another superstar that has also had a very good, 10-year gap of character development and evolving. Drew McIntyre, bro. 10 years ago, he was in 3MB. He was a jobber. He was a nobody 10 years ago. Nobody was caring about Drew McIntyre. Go back and look at his overall rating, like on WWE 2K, 15 compared to his rating on like WWE 2K24, bro. The rating comparison is crazy. Drew McIntyre, like, now is what? Like, you could say high 90s, maybe low 80s at best. I guarantee you on 2K, 14, he probably was like in the 70s, bro. Maybe even lower than that, bro. Like, nobody was talking about Drew McIntyre in 2015 as being the chosen one anymore. That time had passed. But then, I think he might have even got fired in 2015. Then had to go back to the Indies, reinvent himself, and then he came back to WWE. He'd been one of the top stars ever since then, bro. Like, Drew McIntyre has evolved so much, bro, and I'm really hoping he gets that World Championship push on the main roster in front of the fans that he never got to have, bro. Like, he's been owed and deserved that. Drew McIntyre is definitely one of the MVPs of WWE the last 10 years, I would say, too, just based off of his evolvement of what he meant for the pandemic, his evolvement of what he meant for WWE last year alone, just his evolvement of his growth in general. Jey Uso, bro, going from a tag team wrestler, just being a twin brother, to main event Jey Uso standing out on his own as a singles competitor. Jey Uso is like one of the top 5 most popular superstars in the company right now as we speak, bro, and that's crazy to say. 10 years ago, nobody would have said that. 10 years ago, I don't even think people even thought the Usos could even split up as a tag team. Like, just because they're twins, you thought they would be a team forever. But now Jey Uso, he's doing his thing. And I don't know if the World Championship push is still in his future, but you know what? You can never say never in WWE. They might end up giving it to him at some point because his popularity hasn't, died down at all. Like, it's still there. He's got the most lit entrance in WWE, the yeet, 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 bro. Like, Jey Uso is definitely up there as maybe even top 3 most popular superstars in WWE right now. And as long as he can keep that momentum up and WWE wants to keep utilizing him that way, he not only will remain one of the top baby faces and idols for like little kids to look up to and everything and want to be like, but he legitimately may, I'm not saying it will happen, but he may get a World Championship push in the future. We got to give flowers to Nia Jax as well, because about 10 years ago, she was starting to make her name in WWE, but then it wasn't too long after this where a lot of people were starting to say that she was injuring people and that she was injury prone, as far as like not her getting injured, but she was injury prone, just hurting other superstars she was in the ring with and she wasn't safe to work with. That was attached to her legacy for so long, and would have been if she never came back to WWE and had this run. The last year, Nia Jax has been very good. She's been putting on good matches. She's had a good presentation, a solid championship reign. Like, Nia Jax has proven all the haters wrong, man. You got to give her respect if you ask me. She proved all the haters wrong that she could work. She could be safe in the ring. Honestly, Triple H, I got to give credit to him, too, because he presented her very well. Like, what he did with her the last year, I always felt Vince McMahon should have did with her years and years ago, instead of like screaming my hole on television and getting beat up like by random superstars and losing matches he should have never lost. Like, Nia Jax could be like easily the most dominant superstar in the division for the women, just based off her look and presentation alone. And she was that, I would say, for about a year, for a little bit, not the entire year last year, but she was doing like the best work of her career last year, and I got to give her flowers and respect, man. Like, the last year was really, really good for her, and I'm glad to see her back. Like, I enjoy actually watching her. R-Trizzle, man, R-Truth. R-Truth has definitely, he's evolved a little bit in WWE, you could say. I mean, obviously his dreads have changed over the last 10 years and everything, and He's been still the comedy character, and, he was the 24/7 god, for a minute, holding that 24/7 championship. He hasn't been put, like, in the main event scene or anything, which wasn't expected just based off his role for WWE, and there were times when people forgot about him because he wasn't being used on television much, and then there were times when he was, like, the funniest guy on television. He even made Brock Lesnar, break kayfabe and laugh on television at one point, just cracking Brock Lesnar up in the ring because he's just a funny guy. R-Truth just has a funny gimmick and he has a funny personality. So the last 10 years of R-Truth has pretty much been the same. It's been consistent and inconsistent just based off his character work. But you know what? R-Truth can be one of those guys they can always find a spot for in place no matter how old he gets. He's in his 50s now, and he can still do like a standing split in the ring, and he's still very athletic for his age, and he's still very funny. He still has a lot of charisma behind his gimmick, and he can be placed in funny storylines. They proved that with the Judgment Day stuff. Like, they can still utilize him for comedy stuff even still now. So R-Truth has definitely been, very consistent, I would say, over the last 10 years, just based off when they wanted to use him. So those are all the superstars I'm going to do today, just covering like the last 10 years. If you want to see a part 2 of this, let me know in the comment section below. Or if you want to see a similar video like this, maybe not to the extent of what I did today, but something similar, let me know in the comment section below as well. And let me know, what superstar, based off the ones that I showed you, do you feel like has had the best 10-year gap as far as evolving the most? Thank you all for watching. Greatly appreciate it. Please make sure to subscribe, like, share, comment below. And if you want to see more wrestling content related right here on this channel, you can click the video right here. If you want to check out the No Name Wrestling Podcast, you can click the playlist right here to check out every single episode.